Okay, so good evening everybody. This is Allilon Unplugged number 9. Welcome to Davos, Poland. Tonight we've got a special night planned for you. We've got lots of friends. Before we start, I'd like to double check that we are live and this is feeding. Bear with me. We're live?
Yeah.
Thank you. Brilliant. Okay, the first thing I want to do tonight is give you a tour of this amazing facility. This is the first time we've been to the Davos Academy in Poland. And it's literally just been renovated. They've bought this beautiful building, and it's going to give you a quick tour of the space. So, Harry, if you want to do a little 360 so you can check out the backwash area. Perfect. Okay, if you want to follow me, this is the work session space. This is where the team have been cutting hair and learning this morning. Over here we have some of the work that the team was doing this morning. This is all the different haircuts that the guys were training on this one. There's obviously different variations of lengths. Basically the shapes for graduations from the back. They did good, they did really well. If you come over this way for me. There's a handsome man I want to introduce you to. I call him the daddy.
Thank you, my son.
This is Tomek. Tomek is in charge of Davos, Poland, and this is his beautiful new home. I think you're going to enjoy looking around today and seeing it. Got a beautiful display of the Davos products on this side. And then if you follow me, Harriet. So, this is the haircut that we're going to be doing this evening. So if we want to zoom in a little bit, make it a bit clearer. So the first, we're going to start the haircut in the back. As you can see by my key, it will explain everything what it is. So my black is my sectioning pattern. And what we're doing is we're starting in the centre back. We're doing a cutting line which will be triangular, you'll see that in a minute. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take diagonal sections running through off that, basically like ta-da, like that, and we're going to be cutting every single time, pulling every section to the previous. The black solid lines are the internal method of working, the cutting by numbers. The red line is the direction of the hair to the cutting line. My horizontal shape, if you look at the view above, this will be the cutting line as I'm working horizontally. So I'm working quite a square line, which results in a triangular expanded shape. I've used obviously all the heads and the pens to mark that up. And if you just scan the wall very quickly, you'll be able to see some of the work that we were doing with the team today and yesterday. Have a look over there, Harry. So behind we have the pleasure of having all of our team who've been doing models and cutting today. Guys, you want to say hello? Hello! So, let's get to our haircut over here. So, luckily we had one of our beautiful students today who said, Johnny, do whatever you want. I'm really open. So we're going to have a little bit of fun. What I've pre-done is I've pre-blow dried and ironed the hair. Only because I didn't want to spend loads of time, because over here it's quite late over here. And I know the guys have been training all day and they need to study for their exam tomorrow. So let me tell you where I'm going to do and where I'm going to start. Feel free as usual to ask me as many questions as you like. We've got a team of people who are watching and who will basically tell me what it is you're asking, and I'll do my best to answer. I'm going to start in the centre back. I'm going to take a section from the crown down to the nape. Comb the hair straight out. I'm going to use quite a lot of tension. I'm going to cut a triangular cutting line. Now notice that the head is down. With the head being down, I will naturally, even if I cut a square line, I would naturally be triangular because the head is down. So if I just tilt the head down again. So in this scenario, my vertical shape is triangular due to the angle of my cutting line. I'm also using elevation to create my shape. I comb the hair down, I look at how the shape sits, okay? My next section will be section 2. So this is section 1. I'm going to basically take another vertical section completely parallel to the first, okay? And notice that I'm working on dry hair So it's important that you really groom the excess hair. Okay? Now I'm going to take section 1, which is basically here. I'm going to use section 1 as a guide, and I'm going to pull section 1 to section 2. So my number system in this scenario is 1 to 2. Comb the hair once, a consistent amount of tension, and cut the hair. Now feel free to ask me anything you'd like if you do have any questions. We've been now in Poland for 3 days now. This is our 3rd day, and we're working on a primary shapes course, and today we worked on graduation from the back with the team, and tomorrow we're going to be working on short layering. Okay. So I've cut section 1, I've cut section 2. Now I'm going to use section 2 on the opposite side, and again take section 1 as the guide. So 1 will go to number 2. So I need to take away section 2 on this side so I don't get confused with the amount of guides that I have. So I should be able to see very clearly both sides of my section. I'm going to comb the hair out from the base, so number 2 is coming out from the base. Now if you look carefully, I'm using the wide side of my comb to groom the hair. Let me just double check with my students over here to make sure they can answer why I'm using a wide tooth comb on dry hair. Who can answer for me? Who would like to answer for me? Good. So I'm using a wide tooth comb to basically avoid making the hair static. Well done. Thank you for getting it right. Obviously, when you use the tight end of the comb, you tend to use a lot of tension, which then tends to give you a little bit of friction, which can, on dry hair, can cause a lot of static. So, as you can see, I've cut section 1, 2 and 3, or 1, 2, 1 and 2. So it's 1 in the centre, 2, 2. Okay, you can see obviously where the hair sits, you can see the colour placement, and you can see the layering is equal. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a vertical section in the centre, separate the hair into 2, and then I'm going to come off diagonally, but I'm going to be working on my body position to help you understand how to control the horizontal shape. So, Harry, if you come there. Perfect. I'll start with the left side, and I'm going to identify with you some key tips on how to control your over direction. So I separate the hair in the middle, okay, like that. So now I'm working on just the one side, okay. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to start at the nape of the hair. I'm going to take a diagonal section, going to section the hair away. And now this is the key to controlling my shape. What I'm going to do to make it easier for you to see, I'm going to turn the chair around this way. Harry, come right here. Okay. Can you see the floorboards? Can you see how the floorboards are running completely horizontal? What I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my feet behind the line. So Harry, if you zoom in on my feet, I'm keeping my feet behind the line. Now if my foot changes position like that, I'm going to end up rounding the shape off. So I want to work quite square. So I'm going to stand parallel with my feet equal. I'm going to lift the hair straight out. I'm going to use the centre point as a guide. And I'm going to keep my fingers completely square. And what will happen is my shape will naturally get longer towards the front. So I'm going to take diagonal sections. I'm going to make sure I do not move my body. So I'm not going to move my body from the same position. I'm going to keep my sections nice and clean. I'm going to groom my excess hair. I'm going to clip it well. And now, basically, I want section 2 on my horizontal shape to come down to section 3. So what we're going to do, section 1, sorry. We're going to come, again, keeping your feet completely square, keep your fingers completely square, and cut it. And what will happen is, my shape will slowly work itself out. Now, can you see how the line's gone up a little bit here? Can anybody message me to tell me why? If not, I'll explain, but I'm just going to see if anybody knows why all of a sudden the hair is starting to lift up from the side. Next section. This is section 3. So section 3 now is to the top of the ear. Now, why do I need to remember that? I need to remember that because on the other side, when I get to section 3, if I want symmetry, I should be top of the ear. Now, I lift the hair up and I let section 1 drop away. Again, keeping my body completely square, keeping my fingers completely parallel to my body. I lay the hair through.
We have an answer.
What's the answer?
Allilon. He is saying that the hairline moves up.
Bravo! Brilliant. That's exactly the reason. Well done. Because the hairline works up, naturally what's going to happen is the outline will follow. Okay? So I'm going to take the section all the way through. Now I'm on section 4, I'm above the ear. I'm not worried about this hair right now. Now I'm above the ear, I'm going to start to use the outside of my finger. So watch carefully. Now I'm starting to use the outside of my fingers because I'm lifting higher. And again, keeping my fingers completely square. Lay the hair through. Can you see it starts to drop again? Now with my feet, again, it's really important I try not to move them too much. Now in this scenario, I'm going to start to introduce the hair in the front, okay? So what I want to do is I'm going to shift my weight, take my section all the way through. So again, slightly diagonal, closer to horizontal than vertical. And then I come back to my standing position again. If I remember this position, I can't go wrong, yeah? Well, you can, but you're less likely to go wrong.
So 2 people have asked so far why you're cutting on dry hair tonight.
Good question. Okay. So, for those of you tuning in now, first of all, thank you for tuning in. If it's your first time, thank you for joining us. And if you're a regular with Allilon Unplugged, thank you for joining us again. Feel free to ask as many questions as you can tonight. So, if you're just now joining, let me explain to you where we are. We're in Poland, and in Poland, it's 8 o'clock in the evening, rather than our usual 7 o'clock slot. And the guys behind us are basically our team who are training on this particular course. And the problem that we have is we've been here since really early in the morning, so I don't want the guys to stay up too late with me, because we are going to be studying for an exam for tomorrow. Tomorrow they have their primary shapes exam, which they're going to be doing. So I need to make sure that they get at least 5 hours sleep. Good. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm just double checking my elevation by taking vertical sections. Now in this scenario, my external shape is automatically being created by my internal shape. Can you see? Because of the internal shape, my external shape is already getting longer towards the front. Again, take this section here. Now, I will be cutting a little bit of a kind of long fringe area after. And if you're from the States, you will know fringe as a bang. And if you're from Poland, a fringe would be a... Guźka. We're one of them, yeah? Juszka. Yes. Jak się masz? Okay, right. Dobrze. So, I'm going to continue using the center point as my guide. Elevating the hair each time. And what should happen is the shape will naturally float to the front. Now, because the hair is already quite short in the front, what I'm going to find now is that as I work forward, there's going to be less and less hair coming off. Again, coming back to my initial starting point, very, very, very important. Comb the hair up, keep your fingers square, square to the head. So basically my fingertips are facing that window every time. And that is my internal shape, which gets, even though I've cut it square, it naturally gets longer and more triangular in an expanded shape. So you can see already one half of the haircut is done, okay? Now I'm going to start on the other side, do the same principle. So Harry, if you want to come around the other side. Good. So we've had an amazing 3 days with the team here. Tomorrow we have exams from the primary shapes, which I know the guys are really, really, really looking forward to doing tomorrow. And Harriet, who's actually on the camera this evening, you can't see her, has been teaching with me. She's done an amazing job. I hope you all agree. She did a good job. So, coming back to my starting position. Woohoo! Coming back to my starting position. Again, elevate the hair inside of my fingers to start off with. And cut a square cutting line. And each section, I'm going to do the same thing, making sure that I groom the excess hair, the hair that I'm not cutting. Keep it nice and clean. Come back to your starting position again. Work square.
So we have a question.
Okay.
From Tonic Hairstyle.
Hey Tonic.
In this scenario, what is the benefit of using horizontal sections instead of vertical sections?
What a great question. Okay. Thank you for the question. So basically, I could achieve the same result taking vertical sections. By the way, just to bring your attention to something, that is now section 3, and as I'm supposed to be, I'm by the top of the ear. Very important, yeah? If you want symmetry, everything you do must be symmetrical. So, to answer your question, basically, by working horizontal sections, what I'm doing is I'm testing myself to control my elevation a lot more. If I was working vertically, my cutting line and my elevation and my over direction would be in play, but my cutting line would be the dictating factor in controlling my vertical shape. It would be easier for me. But because I'm working more diagonally and I'm cutting the hair with using diagonal sections, but my fingers are parallel and quite square and quite horizontal, I'm actually making my horizontal shape. I'm actually creating my horizontal shape with my cutting line, and I'm using elevation to control my vertical shape, as well as over direction. So I'm actually making my life harder. So why am I doing it? Because I like to make my life harder. Now, I like to show people that you can achieve lots of different looks, or the same look, in different ways, you know? It's very easy to stick with what you know, and what can happen is you can get quite boring because you end up doing the same work all the time. So now I'm on section 4. I'm going to lift it above the ear, outside of my fingers, and work the hair through. Diagonal sections. And I'm directing the hair back. So I don't know if you guys, for those of you who are watching today, I don't know if last week you managed to tune in to watch the interview with Nicky Pope. It was a fantastic evening. If you didn't get a chance to watch it, feel free to scroll down after you finish watching this on the Allilon page and watch the interview. Nicky Pope, I mean, it was a great interview. She did an amazing job talking from her heart and expressing what she feels in regards to our industry moving forward. And I think it was a really good evening. And I hope that you guys, for those of you who did watch it, I hope you enjoyed it. And for those of you who didn't watch it, please feel free to log on tonight and have a little look. Again, make sure your feet are parallel. I'm getting rid of all the dry hair, so I'm gradually getting longer as I go. Coming up to my last few sections. Okay. Elevating the hair. Again, keeping my fingers completely square and working it through. And what you're going to find is that I'm naturally going to get this swing type shape, which personally I think is beautiful. Okay, now what I'm going to do, because of the colour, this is obviously old colour, and we haven't had time to colour it today because we've been busy actually in our class. I'm going to go through, I'm gently going to point into all of the hair, okay? So I'm going to start in the centre. And what this is going to do is going to allow a bit more freedom in the haircut. So I'm going to take horizontal sections like this. Okay? I'm going to start above the hairline. So I'm not going to go into the hairline. I'm going to elevate the hair. I'm going to double check my technique to make sure I'm clean. That's very, very important. That's something we've been talking about with the students today in regards to pointing into hair that's not necessary. Now if you zoom in, Harry, you'll be able to see I'm trying to point, but I'm trying to point as evenly as possible. So let me do that again, because there's a really, really important thing I'm going to show you now. Give me 1 second. Let me just double check my shape. Let me groom my excess hair, sorry.
There's also a question about the tension.
Perfect.
How important is it when you're cutting on dry hair?
That's a good question. Okay, so for our regular people who tune in regularly, you will know that obviously we always talk about the fact that you have to be mindful of the tension around the hairline. In this scenario with dry hair, you need to use an even amount of tension, because if you don't, what you're going to find is you're going to be inconsistent and the hair will keep sliding out. Can you see how the hair's weaker here, where the bleach is? Try not to point into there too much. Try and point into the hair that's slightly more denser. And if you look carefully, what I'm doing is I'm not going too deep. I'm just changing the strength of the cutting line so it falls a bit softer. Yeah, I'm not going deep. I'm not trying to change the shape. One of the biggest problems people have when they start pointing is they start smashing into the hair. And the problem with that is that all you're doing is basically destroying the shape that you've just created. So think of this more as like a personalising technique. In this scenario, I'm blending in colour. But in other scenarios, it could be just giving that extra bit of freedom to it. So the difference is when you're cutting it, try not to go on an angle, because a lot of people do this and end up changing the angle of the cutting line. All we're trying to do is soften the cutting line. So we're going directly in. Very, very important, the difference between the two. And if you can see now, if you look carefully, Harry, the shape's gone less spotty compared to this side, because I've basically softened all the cutting line. Yeah? So I'm going to continue with that. So the answer to the question, the question was, is it important to use tension on dry hair?
How important?
How important it is. Okay. Well, I mean, tension is, the key behind tension is not necessarily about how much you use, it's about the consistency in which you use it. So my advice to you was, be it dry or wet hair, you still want to make sure that it's consistent. So I use a lot of tension in general when I cut hair. I'm I've got quite a firm hold on the hair. I don't mind using tension as long as I'm conscious of the skin. And again, I'm just going into the head, softening it through, and I'm going to do this the whole way through. This is very therapeutic actually when you do this. So see how I've still kept the shape, but I've softened it. Now, when you pull it down, all the colour blends in. You don't get any kind of strip marks or lines, because it all just kind of fades itself in nicely.
So Johnny, does the depth of pointing matter in this scenario?
Definitely. Who's asking the question?
Me, actually.
Oh, yeah, it's a very good question. Yeah, so basically the deeper you go, the more weight you remove. So in this scenario, all I want to try and do is soften the colour line. So there's my cutting line, okay? Okay, dust the cutting line, make sure it's super clean. Once it's super, super clean, just watch how deep I go. Just literally the tips. So every time I'm going in the same amount. So ironically, what I'm not doing is this. Watch. A lot of people, if you zoom out a little bit, Harry, you'll be able to see. A lot of people do this. Now, when you do this, this is a problem because you don't always stop at the same point. So what you should do is keep your hands sturdy, the same, and just move along. So it's the same depth. So this hand isn't actually going back and forward. The only thing that's moving is my thumb. Yeah? So it's basically doing that. Rather than that. Yeah? You see that?
Yeah.
Good.
So I've got a question. What's your favourite comb for cutting on dry hair?
The Allilon Black Beauty is a comb that I love to work with. No, I mean, honestly, I love the Beauty. I love working with, if I was to use another comb, I would use, let me have a little quick look. Maybe the, I could use this one. Bear with me. I will show you. There's different combs that we could use, okay? So, if I was going to do it, if I was going to use another comb, on dry hair, you could either use the Beauty 105, yeah? Or you could use the 107, okay? They will give you obviously less tension, so you'll be able to, again, work through. But in this scenario, because I've ironed the hair, I do need some kind of tension from my comb. Otherwise, it will keep gliding out of my hands. Yeah? Good. So again, comb the hair out. Just check your line. And then once you're happy with your line, which I'm happy with, then start to personalise it again. Now in this scenario, I'm going a little bit deeper, just because the hair itself is quite damaged because of the colour. So I want to take away a bit more of the length, a bit more of the weight, to try and get rid of some of the dry hair. Because I've been over-directing it, I've cut very, very little off that front area. So I want to try and remove a little bit, just so the hair starts to feel a bit fresher. Okay, done that side. I'm going to come back to this side now and do exactly the same on this side. But I'm going to start in the centre now, because a minute ago I started off-centre, so I started here, on this hair here. Now I'm going to start in the middle here. So I'm going to separate the hair like this. And from here, I'm going to come across horizontally like this. Flip the hair out of the way. And then I'm going to soften all this through. Comb the hair out. And then start to really, really, really personalise that line. And again, just going side to side. I need to, because the colour's quite bulky here, I don't know if you can see it that clearly, but the colour's a lot more denser in that area. So I need to really, really go a bit, maybe a little bit deeper in the colour to soften the colour.
When you point into the hair, is it important to pull the hair to the same point it was cut?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if you don't, the danger is that you tend to change the shape. Ideally, what you want to do is whenever I use like a personalising technique like this, I tend to basically take horizontal sections. Again, if you look at my cutting line, that's where I've been pointing, so if you look carefully, yeah, you can see where the lines just become so much softer. Yeah, so I'm going to come through here now. And I'm going to really, really soften that line. Again, I'm only going, again, I'm not going in and out. I'm just moving side to side. And I really, really want to soften that. So I'm going a little bit deeper because of the colour. Just because the colour looked quite bulky in that area. And just gently comb the hair down and look at how the colour sits. Now it's blended in better. if any of you guys have any questions you want to ask, not a problem. If you speak to Greta, she'll be able to translate it for me, okay? To Gosha, sorry. Did I say, sorry. What's your name again? Okay. Again, going a bit deep. So, key things to think about when pointing. Number one, the reason you're pointing should be purely to have a logical reason. There shouldn't be a case of pointing every haircut just for the sake of pointing it. In this scenario, you can see I'm trying to get rid of a little bit of the blonde, the strength of the blonde in the edge. So I'm going quite deep in the centre back. On the side areas, I'm going a little bit less deep because I don't need to go so deep because the colour isn't so bold.
Someone's asked how much time do you spend pointing into hair, so personalising and refining the haircuts?
Well, really you need to spend as long as it needs, but if you think about an appointment time, an appointment usually takes about an hour from start to finish, from the point the client walks in and is obviously seated down. And this is something we've been talking about today. It's a really good question, by the way. Who asked that question?
Kane Lucies?
Cool. Hey Kane, thank you for asking the question. I appreciate it. So, we've been talking to the team today about their timekeeping, and we've been putting quite a lot of pressure on them to finish their haircuts in a timely manner. If someone comes into the salon for an hour, what we tend to do is we tend to put the basic shape in very, very quickly. It should be like a 5-minute shampoo, 2 or 3 minute, 4-minute consultation, especially if you've done their hair before. You should have an understanding of how open they are, and you should be able to suggest quite quickly a nice change to their style. Then we tend to wash the hair for 5 to 7 minutes, which leaves you with quite a short time frame. So what we tend to do is we tend to cut the basic shape very quickly, 10, maybe 15 minutes max, okay? Anything more than that, you're basically running out of time when the hair is dry. Then, again, it depends on the length of the hair. You can cut the basic shape in 10 minutes, blow dry for 10-15 minutes, and then cross-check for the remainder of the time, which could be like, 20, 25 minutes, 30 minutes, depending on how long it took you to put your basic shape in. Ideally, my advice to you is try and do a lot of work once the hair is dried, because that's the bit where all the personalising bit comes in. That's the bit where you put your signature into the haircut. So if the hair is very short, if you're cutting the hair short, then there's very, very little blow drying. So you could take a long time putting the basic shape in, simply because you've got 0 blow drying to do. And you can work from wet to dry, like we've been saying for the past couple of weeks.
So Gina has asked...
Hey Gina.
Are you going to be cutting any of the length today?
So, I'm going to be working an element of the length, but mainly in the fringe. I want my haircut to actually be an internal shape, which automatically creates the external shape. I could lift the outline up, I could do, but I don't want to. I want the internal shape to dictate the weight of the external shape. I'll probably work a little bit with the points of my scissors, just on the exterior shape. But I'm not planning on changing it.
Gina's also says that she loves your scissors.
Oh, so thank you. Does she have a pair?
I'll wait to see if she answers.
Okay.
So Tonic Hairstyle is asking, in a salon situation, would the colour dictate the choice of technique, therefore the overall haircut?
Very good question, guys. What would be the right answer to that? I mean, my logic would be, well, if the colour needs to be done, you need to do the colour. In that scenario, if the colour is going to impact the choice of hair cut, then you need to have a consultation in regards to the colour, and obviously change the colour. Ideally, if it's longer hair, like it is now, the colour isn't that much of a massive issue. If I was going short, if I was, for example, cutting the back of the haircut short, then this colour would not be suitable. So then in that scenario, you will definitely need to colour it. Definitely.
And Gina says not yet to having some scissors.
Okay. Gina, in for Allilon Education, and we'll get them to you as soon as possible. Okay. So I'm coming up to the last couple of sections where I'm pointing. Now I'm going a little bit deeper now because of the colour and because of the density of the colour. It's really interesting actually. I've been teaching all day today, and I've just been itching to cut hair, and some of the guys, Sebastian, one of our guys, like, can I have my scissors back now? I'm like, no, let me just finish this liquid. I'm going to have my scissors back. Okay, now I'm going to come through the front. I am going to point some more into this hair, but not yet. Okay, let me explain to you what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut a bit of a fringy type area. Okay, so I'm going to isolate my front area into a zone. So I'm going to start by taking a triangular shape. Now, people always ask me, how wide should the fringe be? Let me show you what you should do. Okay, look at the hairline. Okay, now I can see the hairline goes up and then in. Now, I know that this hair here naturally falls over the hole. So this hair here will naturally fall here. This hair here, up here, naturally, because if you look at this from a side profile, Harry, you can see this hair grows forward. You can see this hair grows downwards. So when you're choosing your zone for your fringe, comb the hair down, let it sit where it naturally wants to sit. And a large percentage of the time, you can actually see from a side profile, the hair from this point here grows forward, and the hair from this point starts to break down because of the roundness of the head. And that's usually where the temple kicks in. Yeah? So, what I tend to do is I tend to keep my fringes in that zone. From temple, or corner of recession, should we say, to the other side, corner of the recession. Tuck the hair behind the ear, get it out of the way, get it super clean, like this. And get it out of the way with a clip. Do the same with the other side. So again, comb the hair down, see where it likes to break and where it likes to sit, and go straight down. And again, that should be where the recession is. Yep. Yeah, so every time, all you've got to do, guys, is focus on the root, because the root will tell you where the hair wants to naturally sit. And there's no point cutting the hair where it doesn't want to sit. You're just asking for trouble, because the hair will naturally not sit there. Tuck the hair behind the ear. Do the same on this side. I'm going to tuck it behind the ear and get it out of the way. And that way the ear will assist me in controlling the movement of the hair. One clip there. Super clean, yeah? It's like one of the most important factors when working. If you take clean sections, the chances are you're going to get a clean haircut. You take messy sections, you don't need to be a rocket scientist, the chances are you're going to make obviously a messy haircut. So try and be really methodical in the way you're working. Okay, in this scenario, I want my fringe to break onto this side of the face, okay? So what I'm going to do is I want the hair to sit around the cheekbone area, this kind of area here. So I'm going to start by taking a vertical section like this. I'm going to get the hair out of the way. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the hair where I want it to sit. And I want it to sit by the cheekbone, okay? So I place it and I cut it. That's the length that I want it to be. Now what I do is I take that hair, I stand at the back, I pull it out from the base, and I take the corner off it, like that. And what's going to happen is, it will get slightly longer towards the front, but it'll be softer. Can you see? The weight's gone. Okay? Now, I'm going to take vertical sections. I'm going to stand on this side of the head. I'm going to pull the hair across. Comb it once. Cut it once. And what will happen is it will start to feather itself out really softly. It will soften the shape. and I'm going to stay in the same position. I'm not moving my body. What's the question, Harry?
So Gina's asked, how do you choose the right length for the fringe?
Oh, good question. Thank you for the question, Gina. So basically, I need to decide where the placement will be on the face. So if you look at my model today, she's got beautiful cheekbones, yeah? Beautiful lips, beautiful eyes. So what I need to do is I want the hair to break around the cheekbone area, and then as it breaks across, it will frame the lips like that. So my goal is to focus on the features that I like, and when you place length around the features that you like, it basically highlights the features. So comb all the hair through. Now you can see, because I've ironed the hair, as I cut it, when it falls down, it falls quite sharp. So what I'm going to do is, once I've finished cutting this, I'm going to iron it through gently. Comb the hair to the same point, like this. Can you see the tension that I'm using in my hand? Good. And it breaks across. Now you can see the ends are quite spiky. So what you do, because obviously I've ironed it, I'm going to get that type of result because the hair is slightly shorter. So I'm just going to heat up the irons, and then I'm just going to gently bend the ends so that I get this kind of soft, floaty finish to the tips of my hair. Now when you're ironing the hair, my advice to you, if you come on this side, Harry, please, Donald. When you're ironing the hair, if I want the hair to move this way, I'm going to stand on this side of the head. I'll take diagonal sections like this, pick the hair up so I don't use any clips. And I'm just going to gently slow down those tips. And that way I just get a bit more of a bevel in the hair. Same thing here. Take the section. And then gently just close those cuticles on the end. Seal the hair. And what will happen is the hair will basically rotate nicely across the face, and the ends of the hair will be nice and smooth. I lift the whole thing up, all in one go. And just take your time with the ends. There's the work there. Just there. And then before it cools down, push it in the direction you want it to go. So it starts to set. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. Now, I'm going to work some freehand through the front, and that will bring me to the end of my shape. So, I'm going to take curved sections from the front, section the hair away. I'm going to elevate the hair, and I'm going to soften quite deep the length in the front. Now this is a beautiful shape that you can do in the salon tomorrow. Last week I did say that I wanted to do something very classic-y feeling, something very commercial. I wanted to do something that you could use very, very easily. And this is definitely something that you can use tomorrow. And the beauty of this haircut, or this shape, is that the clients love the idea of the hair kind of wrapping forward. A lot of clients, it's very, very in at the moment. People like the hair to kind of swoosh round and kind of get a bit longer towards the front of the face. So by using the type of over direction and the type of elevation we have, you can get that feeling, no problem, very, very easily.
So, Johnny, do you recommend this haircut for some particular structures?
Okay, so obviously, if somebody's got very, very coarse, curly, textured hair, you could definitely do this shape. But what I would do maybe, instead of cutting a triangular cutting line in the back, I'd probably do more of a slightly rounder cutting line. That way it flattens the shape. Otherwise, if you go for more of a triangular cutting line, you're going to get quite a big corner in the shape, which on curly hair can look beautiful, but can also look very, very swollen. depending on the density of the hair. So on finer hair, or on kind of Caucasian hair, or kind of could be Oriental hair, you could definitely play with these kind of cutting lines, where it's slightly more triangular. But on kind of Afro hair, or hair kind of like a European hair, i.e. like Greek, Spanish, Mexican, you know, very dense, kind of quite curly hair, I wouldn't necessarily go for a triangular cutting line in the back. So next week I'm back in London, and next week I'd like to do something a bit more creative. So tune in next week if you want to see something a bit more avant-garde looking. We're also planning on the 31st, I think it is, of this month. I'm going to be doing, it's Friday, I think it's the 31st. I'm going to be doing a hair-brained haircut, which I'm looking forward to a lot, seeing the boys again, and doing something over in New York. I'm going to be in New York for literally a day with the Davines head office, and we're going to be doing it with some of the hair-brained guys. I'm not sure exactly who's going to be coming, but we're going to be doing a little bit of a hair-brained live. But we're also going to be doing an Allilon Unplugged next week at the same time, Tuesday, 7 o'clock. So you're going to get to see quite a few things, hopefully, next week. The week after next, which is going to be fun. Then from New York, I go to Toronto, and I'll be doing a primary shapes course there. So I'll be doing a Tuesday night in Toronto in 2-3 weeks, which you'll be able to tune in and see. And we'll give you a little tour of the academy based there, as well as what we're going to be doing haircut-wise. We'll have to see what we got in regards to either a model or mannequin, but it'll probably be something a bit more commercial looking if we're doing something a bit more creative next week. So again, I'm just finishing off, pointing into the hair, softening it through.
So Kelly says, come to New Zealand. I love watching your live videos. That's so inspirational.
Oh, thank you. It's very sweet of her. New Zealand, unfortunately, even though I really do want to come, if I'm honest, I am not coming this year, but Pedro is going to be coming this year. Just to bring your attention to one thing before I start. The outline, or the exterior shape, I know Gina asked me before what we're going to do with the exterior shape. All I'm going to do, I could cut the whole thing off like that, you see, into like a bobby line, but I like the feeling of it being long, so I'm just going to gently use a chipping technique to strengthen the outline a little bit. Again, keeping my fingers parallel and flat. Okay? And I'm going to be working square to the head. So I keep that length in the front. Elevate the hair and rest it on my fingers. Keep my fingers completely square. Minimal amount of elevation. Look at this finger here is supporting my blade. So I'm just taking away the excess. Like so. So yeah, unfortunately I'm not going to be coming to New Zealand, but Pedro will be. If you want to know the dates of when Pedro's going to be there, I believe, if I'm right in saying, we're going to be doing a primary shapes course there, which we're really looking forward to. I think they're going to be going to, not sure whereabouts in New Zealand, to be honest. Where's Krista from?
Auckland?
Auckland, probably Auckland, yeah. But I've heard New Zealand's incredible, so I will be coming one day, definitely.
And also James Hickley asks, is the Toronto gig open to anyone, and if so, how does one get in on the action? Okay, so in Toronto, we're going to be doing a primary shapes course. We have an amazing friend of ours who is one of the distributors for Davines, a guy called Frank Miraglia, and he owns a company called Metro Beauty Supplies, and they have an incredible academy there. He's also a very good friend, just like Mr. Tomac over there, wherever he's gone. And basically, we tend to do primary shapes courses, primary mechanics courses, so forth,
in that particular academy, maybe 4 or 5 times a year. And we'll be doing an Unplugged there. If he wants to join the Unplugged, if he wants to come and just basically watch, he's more than welcome. If he messages me privately, and what I will do is I will message him the address and confirm the time we're going to be doing it, because obviously it's going to be Toronto time, and Toronto time it'll be a bit different obviously than the UK time.
Please remind everyone of the email address.
Okay, so the email address is info@alliloneducation.com. So it's ALLILON.com. info@alliloneducation.com. Or if you want to message on Facebook, you're more than welcome. So I'm just tidying up the tips, guys, and then I'm almost done. Tonight's Allilon Unplugged is something which is, I think, really quite sexy as a haircut. It's very soft. I've got a very, very beautiful model, and I wanted to do something that kind of felt consumer friendly, but pretty and flattering. You can see the fringe just kind of frames the eye, and it softens the focus on the jawline, and it obviously frames the lips as it hugs the lips. So that kind of length brings out the key features on the face. Just having one last look at my haircut, make sure I'm happy with the way it moves. I love that. And that's quite pretty. I'm just going to soften literally the surface hair, and then I'm done. Let me just point into the surface hair through the top. So I'm going to take a section from left to right through the top, and I'm going to point actually quite deep. So take a horizontal section. Make sure that horizontal section is even. There you go. Comb the hair up. Now I'm going to go quite deep on the hair, so like this. I'm taking the whole blade into the hair. And it'll just give me that sense of freedom, and the colour will blend in a bit better. A couple more sections through the top, and then we're done. So if you've got any last minute questions, feel free to ask them now. Key elements of this haircut is to watch your body positioning, to make sure your body is square to the head. Use the floor to help you control your shape and control your over direction. Use the three initial vertical sections to help you control your elevation, as you'll have a guide coming off them. Count your sections and make sure that either side of the section is hitting the same point as you're working up. So for example, I know that my section 3 finished on top of the ear, so that means on the other side, section 3 needs to also finish on top of the ear. Think about the fringe and the decision making of where I've taken the fringe from, i.e. the recession areas, the areas that naturally make sense because the hair breaks at those points.
So someone's asked if we will be at Hair on Stage on the 9th of April in London.
In London, yes we will be, yeah. I'm not sure if I'm going to be, if I'm honest. I might be away, but I know that the team will definitely be there. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be there. I know Ped will definitely be in the country. So yeah, if you're from London, the Hair on Stage is on the 9th of April. When is the Hair on Stage in Poland, Tomek?
17th of September.
So if you're from Poland, or you live in Poland, or you come into Poland on the September the 17th, they can email
directly to us, info@davinas.pl.
So info@davinas.pl.com if you want to buy tickets to the Hair on Stage in Poland. I know there's only about 50 tickets left. There's about 50 tickets left.
Steven?
Yeah. So it's in September. There's a space for 350, and I think they've only got 50 places left. So if you want to jump in and get in, feel free to get in touch as soon as possible. Okay, I like that. So I'm going to use just a little bit of the oil. If I can grab some of the oil, please. So while I'm getting the product, key things to think about. Okay, number one. Started in the back, vertical sections, triangular cutting line. 1 went to 2, 1 went to 2. So basically I've cut 3 sections in the centre back with a triangular cutting line working vertically. Then I split section 1 in the middle, so I've got half of section 1 and section 2 of my vertical shape either side. Then took diagonal sections coming off that, working square to the head. Key things to remember: use the floor, stand in the same position, use the floorboard as your guide, that way you keep the same body positioning. Fingers are parallel, so my fingers are square to the head, and I worked up every single section. When I got to the ear was section 3, everything above section 3, instead of working inside my fingers, naturally it was easier to hold the hair on the outside of my fingers and worked up that way. That way all my weight is dropping to the front. Then what I did either side was take a triangular zone in the front, took a piece of hair, placed it on the cheekbone, cut it to that length, then took the corner off it. Then I over-directed every other section, so 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 4 to 1, maintaining an element of length on the other side. And then I went through and just basically gently pointed it all the way through the hair. I'm using the Davinas oil in the hair. Beautiful product. I'll use it on everybody, to be honest. Curly, straight, Japanese, Greek, whatever you are. Oil works. Rub it in and out of your hands. And what I tend to do is when you rub it across your hands, only use the fingertips to start off with. Yeah? Just glide the fingertips through the hair. Okay? Then once the fingertips go dry, yeah, redistribute the product, and then feel free to run your hands through everything and loosen it all up. Because the hair has been ironed, the hair obviously falls down quite straight. So what I'm doing now is I'm just loosening it up, running my hands through the hair, making sure I distribute the product evenly and precisely. Good. This is my finished look. And basically what we did is we cut, stand up for me. We cut a beautiful shape. Do me a favour, just shake your head for me. Turn around for me. Do the same thing, just shake it for me. Shake your head. Go. Again. See, I just create this soft movement, okay, this freedom in the hair. And I personally think this is a haircut which you could do very, very, very easily tomorrow in the salon. And I think your clients would love it. Thank you very, very much. Thanks, can I say thank you for joining in tonight. I hope you've enjoyed it. Have they asked any last minute questions or? Good, okay. Have a lovely evening. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next week on the Allilon Unplugged back in London. And do that haircut this week. If you get a chance and you have a client with long hair who comes in, wants a bit of a change, try that haircut and see how you feel about it. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you for Davinas Poland for having us. And we'll see you next time.